Alright, so this is a little crazy because MiHoYo dropped a Herrscher at the start of the year. Now, they usually drop it at the end of the year, so this is going to be the awakened form of Shadow Knight. And
任せてください。私にできないことはありません。面白いものはあります？来ましたよ。
they already have the Japanese voices in. That is pretty early. They usually don't do that, so I don't know if anything has changed. Maybe because they have better access to the voice actors now that they run Genshin, so they can do all these with more freedom. I have no idea. I'm not speculating or anything, just trying to make sense of it. So anyway, that is the Herrscher of Sentience, and like the Herrscher of Thunder and all subsequent Valkyries, I assume, she comes with a PRI arm. So there is also a Divine Key, but we won't be covering that in this video. Maybe we'll do a stream later on, or, we'll talk about it later, because as you guys know, this is version 1. It is subject to a lot of changes, but we'll go ahead and look at version 1 of the Herrscher of Sentience, which is a support. It's supposed to be support according to the developer stream, but more on that later. She is physical damage, bio type. And like I said earlier, she is the awakened form of Shadow Knight, so she will have some shared skills. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and unlock her. So the bad thing about there being shared skills, oh by the way, this is like a new page. They're gonna implement this for even older Valkyries, and it basically will add some skills in between, but what it does is actually shows you the progression between ranks, like even S1, S2, which are the smaller stars, right? And then we'll also see, it's just basically more details, but some Valkyries will be getting new skills based on that chart. But for the Herrscher of Sentience, we're just going to take it that everything comes with it because, she's already being introduced with that. It's not really much of a big deal, it's more of like a display thing, at least for her, so we won't be going through that when we're going through the skills. And that was how she looked like. She looks amazing, and let's get her equipped first. I'll also be doing a full translation on her weapon, only the PRI form, and her new stigmata set. We won't be covering anything else in this video, it's totally going to be about the new Herrscher. We'll also do a bit of gameplay. I did see her in action quite a bit, and I'll be honest, right? Even though she's been introduced as a support, she really looks fully like a DPS, and it's not like, oh, animation just looks DPS. She actually can deal damage even at S rank. So she is going to be perfect for anyone building physical teams, or just, wondering whether or not you're gonna want to pull for this banner. She is really great. And the fact that she's a Herrscher also means she can use Serene Ascendant if anyone needs to, and that means you can just pull the Valkyrie by herself. Also, given that she is a Fuha, we can also use the previous gauntlets if you have access to any of them, and it's likely that the best choice would be Nebulous Duality. But of course, let's just look at the Valkyrie herself. So I'd just like to remind everyone, this is not finalized, this is just version 1 of the Chinese beta, so it is in its really early stages. But yeah, take it with a grain of salt. Most of the time it's pretty close, just they make a few tweaks. Anyway, entire team gains 26 to 30% critical damage, and for every bio character you gain 4 to 6% critical rate. So that is pretty huge, and it stacks per bio character if it's not clear, so we can get up to 18% critical rate for an entire bio team. And the good thing is that it doesn't require all of them to be bio, so that's something to note. Anyway, we'll move on to the passives. She does have 3 weapons, which you guys will see when we show gameplay. She has a sword, a spear, and a chain sword, which is essentially like kind of a whip, and you can only do your combo attack when they have full energy. She also has a new status, which is Faint. Basically, it immobilizes enemies, and when they recover from it, they take physical damage. Now, moving on to the first passive. When you do a combo attack on the Herrscher of Sentience, you gain a shield on non-shielded Valkyries, which has a value of 30% of the max HP of the Herrscher of Sentience. It also reduces incoming total damage by 50%, and slightly increases your resistance to interruption. But more importantly, it also grants up to 20% critical damage and 10% critical rate. Now this is at S rank, it can still go higher, but we're not sure how high it will go. We're trying to keep the Valkyrie at its base S rank until version 3. Then we have the triple S rank skill, starting you off with 20 initial SP. Might be more, but I'm guessing it's about 20, maybe 30 or 40 at most. but we'll come back at version 3 and see what it is. Anyway, there's this other ability. Enemies affected by Feint take additional 15% physical damage bonus from the Herrscher of Sentience herself. So this is like Fervent Tempo's skill where she deals additional damage to weakened enemies. So this is for enemies hit by Feint, which is her own status ailment as well. Additionally, enemies impaired by the Herrscher of Sentience. She does have skills that can impair, more on that later, but they do take additional 15% physical damage, also only from the Herrscher of Sentience. Now, they do specifically state that this skill does not stack with Night Squire's Authority, and that is the passive that gives her 40% additional physical damage to impaired enemies when she's in her burst mode. So that's something worth noting. So anyway, this is her ultimate evasion. It is pretty unique. It actually is very unique because she does leave behind an illusion, which is pretty funny. I'll show you guys later. She taunts enemies, the illusion taunts enemies, and it lasts for 3 seconds. So that's when you do a normal evasion, and only one illusion can be around at any point in time. So yeah, with this passive, you can destroy the illusion with your own Valkyries. So destroying it, or having it destroyed by enemies, or having it expire actually activates a global time fracture and your ultimate evasion skill. And with this passive at double S3, it deals additional 200% of your attack in physical damage. And we have the last evasion skill, which enables the illusion to leave a black feather behind. Once you pick it up, it restores 150 HP and 15 SP to the entire team. Basically an SP pack with a little bit of bonus HP. Wow. Anyway, we have the basic attack. So we were talking about this earlier. She has a sword, 4 sequences, 810% of her attack and physical damage per hit. That is insane. I'm pretty sure they'll be adjusted. Spear has 5 sequences, and the second and fifth sequences gather enemies. Chainsword has 3 sequences, and it has a bit of lower attack in the basic attack, but also we use the ultimate button to switch between weapons, and you guys can see what it is down there. We'll just quickly rush through most of the skills. When the character enters or leaves the field, gains a 30% total damage buff for 15 seconds. This one is pretty insane. It kind of makes her a DPS, despite them saying that she's a support, so I think a lot of people would be happy with that. Also, when you're not in Herrscher form, each of your weapons can restore 2 SP and 30 weapon energy to each weapon. And they do have separate cooldowns, so that's something to bear in mind. Each has a 5-second cooldown. Her KTE, triggered by time slow, yeah, you can't do it in Herrscher mode, so I think because it's a burst mode, so if you exit and you're still in the mode and it's still running, you probably can't do your QTE even if you time slow enemies. It deals a ton of damage, and it automatically puts you in spear mode and restores your spear energy. So essentially you could just get into the field and do your spear combo attack right away. So we'll get into combo attack later, but in sequence we're getting up to ultimate attacks. So she has one of the most insane burst modes I have ever seen, if not the most insane burst mode. At 125 SP, hold down your ultimate button, just like any other Fuha battlesuit, to activate a Reality Marble and enter Herrscher mode. So what you do, initially you do an attack with physical damage that does a ton of damage in an area. But the other thing, the effect of the ultimate is what's crazy. All allies, enemies, buffs, debuffs, any skill effect, and even the stage timer stop completely when the Reality Marble is in effect. This is more than insane. She can attack while the Reality Marble is active. Of course, she can also switch team members to come in and do damage, but she herself deals a ton of damage. And when you do this, all your Newton B stacks, everything that's on the target, does not decay. So you're basically dealing maximum damage, and it's freaking insane, man. So you can run 2 supports, run her as a DPS, man, you'll just destroy anything while in the Reality Marble. So if you follow the skill descriptions, she already has 3 weapons. When you're in Herrscher mode, she has the 4th weapon, which is a greatsword that she carries around, if you haven't noticed. And it deals a ton of damage per hit. It has 3 basic attack sequence, but if you use its rapid slash attack, that's what we're calling it for now, it deals increased damage for each hit for up to 10 times. That is pretty freaking insane. Support Valkyrie? Yeah, right. You guys will get the idea when we see the gameplay. I'll leave the timestamp down below if you want to skip directly to gameplay. But if you do want to understand more about this crazy new addition to the game, then just stick around. So yeah, there are a lot of possible ways to play her. I've seen people play her as a DPS already, and personally, I think she deals a ton of damage, especially with her current set. Now, like I mentioned earlier, she is a Herrscher, so she does have Herrscher mode, which means she can also activate Serene Ascendant if you really just can't pull for more than just the battlesuit itself. So she is really powerful. She definitely is a game changer in terms of both support and DPS in the game. Now we do have an S3 skill, which is S rank with 3 of the little stars, so basically one step before double S. The first hit of the ultimate, which does 1.8k% damage, gets a 15% critical rate increase, and when you're in Herrscher mode, you deal additional critical damage by up to 25%. And that's not even like upgraded. This skill can go even higher. Then we have this one, also not upgraded yet. So if you play her as a support, chances are you'll be switching out and your teammates will be attacking enemies and they'll drop black feathers. Alternatively, you could also use Starlit Astrologos to force these feathers out, and these feathers will just deal additional damage. And, alright, so this one casting the ultimate skill or Rapid Slash, and we're assuming it's Rapid Slash because it's under the ultimate tab, right? So it's basically your Rapid Slash or ultimate attacks. You'll cause enemies to faint for 1 second, but at a 10-second cooldown. That is already really useful. You deal additional damage and you immobilize them. So yeah, that is crazy. Now we move on to the last segment, the combo attacks, hold attack like what you normally do with combo attacks. Your sword gathers enemies and time locks them. Your spear gets thrown and you can teleport, not necessarily to the target that is hit, so bear that in mind. And your chainsword deals a wide area of attack and inflicts feint for 1.2 seconds. These are all, they look good on paper and they're really good in combat. I'll show you guys later. But first, when a weapon is switched while attacking or when in QTE, when you're performing your QTE, you get an excited state for 5 seconds. Using a combo attack will restore 5 SP and end the state. Now, that one alone doesn't look all that good. Wait till we get to the third skill. Anyway, spear combo attacks inflict impair on enemies, 50% defense reduction, pretty strong, and it lasts for 15 seconds. Yeah, just nothing more to say about that. She is really good, and like earlier we said, when she impairs enemies, she gets an additional 15% physical damage bonus. Now, this one, the double S skill. Excited state, right? We were talking about it earlier with the first skill. Now, when you're in excited state, and of course if you have a double S Herrscher of Sentience, you get extra bonus effects. Bonus effects. Anyway, your sword's second hit inflicts feint on enemies for 0.5 seconds. Your spear time locks enemies for 1 second. So that is really useful for activating QTEs if you have to. And your chainsword inflicts impair, lowers the defense of enemies by 50% for 8 seconds. So bear in mind these are combo attacks, and we'll see how combo attacks are used later. They do have a bit of a cooldown, so that's something to note, but all in all, those effects, pretty insane. Impair could also be used to activate QTEs, right? Anyway, here is the new weapon. Not too sure what to call it yet. Direct translations are usually weird, so we're just gonna leave it at that. I'm not even gonna try. It, like all PRI arms, has a 0 SP cost. Wait, I think the Leitorgia doesn't have a 0 SP cost, but this one, like most of them, has. And you get 2 mind charges, and what it does is, when you do a combo attack, you consume 1 charge, which restores 18 SP. That is pretty insane. You can only do it once every 2 seconds. First passive gives you an innate 15% critical rate, and when your character switches out. So that's a little weird, but we'll figure it out later, but take it with a grain of salt. When your character switches out, you gain a 30% physical damage bonus. It doesn't give us a duration or anything, so I'm kind of confused as to what that might be, for now at least. And the last passive, when consuming or gaining mind charges, so essentially just using the active skill, your team gains 20% physical damage bonus, lasting for 15 seconds, and it can be refreshed, but cannot be stacked. So this is going to be a good weapon on the Herrscher of Sentience herself, but it's also going to be good for Night Squire. Anyway, let's move on. After an ultimate evasion is used, 35% physical damage bonus for 15 seconds to the wielder, not to anyone else. You gain 30% physical damage, and while in burst mode, reduces incoming total damage by 20%. For the B part, after using a combo attack, your team gains 18% physical damage bonus, does not stack, lasts for 15 seconds. Moving on to the set effects. Now, when you're in Herrscher mode, you gain 35% physical damage, and attacks mark enemies at 15 marks, deals 300% of attack in physical damage, and all marks will be removed at a 5-second cooldown, so 5 seconds later, you start marking again. And then we move on to the 3-set ability. When in Herrscher mode, every hit grants the team with a 4% total damage bonus, but it can only be done once every 0.4 seconds, stacks up to 10 times and lasts for 6 seconds. Gaining a stack refreshes the duration. So, I mean, the way to look at this is that it's useful as a support, but it's also really useful if you're using it on the Herrscher herself and turning her into a main DPS. Either way, it's gonna be extremely powerful. I don't know why they did this. I don't know what kind of adjustments they might be doing later, but for now, it looks pretty insane. So that's pretty much it for her. I'll do a bit of gameplay and probably do another video for a showcase. And until then, this has been MG. I'll see you guys soon.
私に任せれば私の